Hello and welcome to Building Momentum, the show where we peel back the curtain on the exciting and often chaotic world of building a successful SaaS business. I'm Yash, your host for this show, where every episode we bring you the stories and strategies of founders who've been in the trenches, conquering churn, scaling their teams, and building products that people and businesses love. In this episode, we'll be chatting with Marek from Context Minds. Context Minds helps content marketers ideate, research, and plan their content using AI. We're excited to hear their story and the lessons they've learned along the way. We'll be dissecting the wins, the losses, and everything in between. So buckle up, grab your headphones, and get ready to dive into the world of SaaS. Hey Marek, thank you for joining in. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Good. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward.
Thank you for joining us for this conversation. And I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting one. Primarily because the problem that you're solving is one of the biggest challenges that stands in front of a content marketers. And so if you can talk a little bit about the problem that you're solving, who are you trying?
Okay, so we are trying to help mainly those content marketers or content writers. They want to create really complex original content. So those guys that they don't want just to use ChatGPT to generate something and put it on the web and publish high quantity of texts and just be done with that. We are focusing on the opposite, on people actually have their own expertise, or the client has some special unique expertise and wants to offer that to the audience and want to really create some content that is really valuable and unique. And for that they need to really think about what are the actual ideas they want to share, structure them properly, and look around on the web and other sources, what is already there, put their ideas in the context. That's why Context Minds, in the context of other existing content, other ideas. And that means a lot of work, a lot of Googling, a lot of brainstorming, and a lot of structuring things. And that's why Context Minds is a visual tool using basically mind mapping or whiteboarding techniques. And of course, it is using AI to help with the brainstorming and also with the research by assisting and suggesting where to look next, what related ideas or topics to mention, and so on.
I think one of the other interesting things that you'd also mentioned to us earlier was that Context Minds helps people think, right? Like in a structured format or in a visual format, and that's a really interesting definition, right? Which is that's useful for content marketers for sure, but then it can also be extended to other job roles as well, where they are able to use the information that's available on the web because it's also using AI, and then they are able to very clearly actually look at a visual map of how they are thinking or what they are thinking, right? And it of course helps in communicating ideas. It also of course helps in a lot of other use cases as well, right? And so that's interesting. Another so from a size, scope, so sort of state of Context Minds as we are today, would you be can you, like, for the people who are listening or watching, could you share with us how many users, how many, like, at what state or what stage we are?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honest answer is we are still not doing enough enough measurement and enough analytics and watching the metrics. But in general, on the one side, you have like 40,000 registered users or people who signed up. On the other hand, you have just about 200 regular active users who use Context Minds regularly. So to give you some idea, from the point of view of monthly recurring revenue, there we are still rather at the starting point, finding the ideal way to get to the paying customers. Most of the money or revenue we got so far was from AppSumo, where we were, I think, pretty successful.
Okay. So that's That's interesting because one of the major challenges that first-time founders or early-stage SaaS product builders face is where do they get their first $10,000 in revenue, right? Who will trust them enough and discover them upfront and pay them, use their product and give them feedback as well. Right? And I think AppSumo in those regards has built a great community. I think it's 2 million people strong or a little more than that, who very consistently, look at absolutely new uh, products that are there in the market, who are trying to solve interesting problems and give it an opportunity. And then in certain cases, I'm sure you experienced and we've experienced as well. We also, our first launch also happened on AppSumo. Is that they work fairly closely with you and help you improve the product, give you their requirements, get on calls with you, give you feedbacks, write reviews and things like that. Right? Would you recommend, like, what are your thoughts on, if I'm a first time product builder, what are your thoughts on launching on AppSumo? Like, if you can share some pros and cons, like for the first $10,000 in revenue or something.
Yeah, so for us, it was quite a game changer. For similar founders, I would definitely recommend it because, as you said, it's great for getting first revenue. It's great for getting feedback and getting first customers, first users. Even if your product is far from finished, they are eager to try it and to search for the value in it and so on. So from the point of view, it's great. And if someone else is in the situation like we are, we are two tech founders with no marketing expertise or experience, so we are really struggling getting to some users ourselves, trying to cold outreach on LinkedIn and so on, with almost no success. And when we launched on AppSumo, it was really amazing. It was like users started pouring in and like hundreds in first week. So it was great. Maybe on the other hand, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about AppSumo, but for me, it's
Sure.
like the biggest topic of the last year and a half. So there are some things that you should keep in mind. I think when you are on AppSumo, because the users or the people, the community there is a bit specific. There are all kinds of with various from various backgrounds. And they will try to use the product to completely different use cases than you designed it for, and then they will try to convince you to change it, add features,
Change the
so that it's
roadmap also a little bit.
change the. They will try to force you into completely different direction, and it's hard to keep your focus or keep a distance from all the feedback which will be all around going in different directions. And you need to keep the distance and distill from the various feedback, distill what is valuable for you and what will actually be useful to follow.
But interesting. Net, I think it's a good place to get your first dollars in, if you don't have the go-to market. Like, it can become your first GTM channel and give you your first 100 customers and things like that. But great to know. So post AppSumo, how do you, so for context minds, when you decide that, hey, this is a feature that I want to, what's the process like? How do you go about it? How do you look at current usage data of context minds, or do you talk to customers, or do you look at competitors, or do you, like, yourself brainstorm and come up with new feature ideas for the product? Like, how do you go about
Yeah. So the process is getting better lately, but until quite recently, it was I would say not ideal. I would not recommend following
Okay.
that process because
Okay.
it was mostly internal brainstorming and then following intuition. I mean, still based on I had hundreds of calls with users and read tens of reviews and questionnaires, but still I used my own intuition a lot. But yeah, recently we started looking more at competition, and most importantly, we implemented better analytics into the product, and we are actually analyzing what features the users use, how often they use it, and try to decide more based on the data and not just intuition.
Sure, yeah. Fair points here. And so, like at this point of time, from context minds standpoint, one of the things that I'd love to understand is how do you, like, in terms of the thought process behind pricing. One of the things that when I look at context minds website, it is a category creator of sorts, right? So there are other platforms that exist, but they only do part of those. So you'll see a mind mapping system, you'll see a keyword, keyword
Research.
analyzer or tracker and stuff like that. But there are, 3, 4 different systems that I would have to use. But then because this as a category didn't exist before you started building. And so for one of the, like, there are good things about creating a category, but one of the biggest challenges about creating a category is you don't know how to price whatever you have built. Because then so just to understand, like, how do you think about pricing, how do you come up with the pricing for context signs, what do you do on those fronts?
Yeah, that's also a good question. So another interesting point for our pricing is that we use external APIs a lot, where you
Yeah.
basically pay per request
Yeah.
or per amount of data that you use.
Yeah.
So the more a user is using context mines, the more it costs us, and then
Yeah.
those external data, external APIs like OpenAI, ChatGPT, keyword data, and so on. Those costs are probably the biggest variable costs that we have per each user. So estimating how much each category of user will use each type of data and trying to come up with the cost. So the short answer is that the main data that we use to determine our pricing is like cost based. Then we also look, of course, at our competitors, even though as you correctly said, there is no like direct competitor, like a tool with at least similar set of features. So we can look at keyword research tools and their pricing. We can look at mind mapping tools and their pricing. The problem is that even if we have some keyword research features, but we don't have all the features of, for example, SEMrush. So if someone is looking at us, I think they are not. They won't see a direct SEMrush alternative in context mines, so we can't start our pricing at $100 per month like SEMrush has. So it's difficult. So what we tried now, we actually changed our pricing like literally yesterday. We tried to create plans that offer less amount of data per month, but are cheaper. So we are now have similar. The starter plan has similar pricing as, for example, Miro, one of the most well-known mind mapping tools. Because I think the first thing that users see in us is, oh, it's a mind mapping tool, and then they look at other mind mapping tools, and so if we had our
There's a direct head-to-head sort of a comparison between Miro and context mines, then it sort of would be fairly easy for them to compare.
Yeah, that's right. And so we don't want to have cost $30 when Miro costs $8. So we tried this, have a very, very cheap starter plan. If people have chance to say, okay, it's just a few dollars, I will give it a chance, and then after they spend another month in the product, they will start seeing the value and maybe hopefully switch to a higher plan, or just stay at the starter plan because because they are not creating complex content every day, but just once a week, for example. So the starter plan is enough for them.
I think there are two insights that I'm able to pick up on from this part, right? So the first one is that if the platform has third-party integrations which are important for the platform's users to get value, then it's extremely important for us to be able to predict or estimate how much of those APIs are our users going to consume. Because if we don't do that prediction correctly, then every customer that we acquire can basically make the company lose more money.
That's right.
So like if the company grows, it starts to make heavier and heavier losses, which of course is a great challenge and an issue. But the second thing, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to understand this correctly. Would it be fair to say that the current pricing experiment that you are running is that you look at, when you're creating a category, you look at what 3 or 4 tools that you're replacing and identify the one that you resemble the most, and then start your pricing as an equivalent to their smallest plan, right? So that when a user is looking at your pricing page and when they're comparing the other platforms, let's, in Context Mind's case, they're comparing Miro, so they're able to see that, okay, Miro costs, let's say, $8 per user per month. Context Minds cost, let's say, $9 or $7, somewhere in that range, plus or minus 10%. But then now my thought process is, okay, if I use Miro, I can only use mind mapping. If I use Context Minds, I can do mind mapping, then I can do these 4 other things as well. And so the barrier to entry is significantly lesser. And then you can always have limits, and you can always have upgrade touch points so that they move to the higher tier as and when they discover more and more value. Would that be a fair way to sort of say that?
Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts.
Got it. Yeah, that's interesting. So this brings us towards the end of our conversation. And one of the things that we do at Building Momentum podcast is that we ask a question that our previous guest had asked, and then you'll also have the opportunity of asking the question to our next guest as well. So, but for you, the question that I have from our previous guest was Chirag with Glaze was that at what point in a SaaS company's journey should a founder think that so founders in early stages are wearing multiple hats, but what metric needs to be achieved or what event needs to happen after which the founder can say to themselves that, okay, I have played the generalist role for these 3 or 4 activities that our company used to do. Now it's time for me to stop the thing A and recruit a specialist to do that better, and I'll find sort of what I am really great at, and I'll just continue doing it. So at what point do you think the early team, the leadership team, or the founder team should move away from being a generalist and like focus on being a specialist or recruit a specialist system?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about it quite often. And okay, so one quick answer would be like as soon as you can afford it. But then it's hard to determine whether you can afford it. Okay, sometimes you are on such a low budget that it's clear that you can't. But sometimes you have some cash flow, and then from the point of the cash flow, okay, there's money that you could spend for an extra team member, but then you have to determine whether the extra team member will actually be able to fully replace you for the amount of money that you expect, and so on. So but I don't want to talk about that too much, and I'm definitely not an expert. Maybe what I can say is I of course started with the wearing many hats situation, and now I'm gradually moving to hiring extra team members for the things that I either hate to do, I don't like, or I know I'm not so good at, and someone better should replace me. And it takes a lot of time, so you have to be patient. But I would definitely say that that it helps a lot, even in our situation that we are still in quite early phase. It's a big improvement. So there are people who would say that you should keep wearing many hats. I mean,
Yeah,
for I don't know how long, but I'm not so much fan of that.
got it.
And yeah, so another criteria is what I maybe already said. So if you that's like a more like intuition, you can it's not a number, but if you start seeing that something that you are doing is taking so much of your time or making you so tired or you hate it so much that it's damaging the quality
Yeah,
of that part of your work, then it's time
yeah,
to try to find someone else, even at the cost that you will have to get some extra funding, because I think it can actually kill, I would say almost kill the business when the founder is buried in
yeah,
a work that he can't do and don't want to do,
yeah,
and so on.
yeah. Yeah, because it also ends up reducing productivity for the things that you like to do.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So because if you consistently keep on doing things that you don't like, but you have to, it also impacts your ability to do things that you like to do or that you're good at, and so on and so forth. And so this brings us to the last part, which is where what's your big question? What's the big question that you are currently battling with while you're building context minds, while you're building this SaaS product that I should ask to my next?
Yeah, so for us, the biggest challenge or question, I would like to have these kind of questions like, should I hire someone else? But we are still struggling with the question of how to present the value of our product to the potential customers in a way that they see it immediately and they are able to decide whether they want to buy or not. And I'm thinking about whether we should try searching for a kind of an agency or external
Mhm.
expert that will help us
Do
find
this
this.
as
I
an
mean,
exercise.
produce some explainer videos or
Yeah.
things like that,
Mhm.
or whether we should keep trying to do this internally and by learning from our mistakes, find the right way.
This is so I tell you what, in my very limited experience,
Mm.
finding the best way to communicate the value that we are offering as a company or as a platform is a question that cuts across all stages.
Mm.
So like this is a question that you have even at 10 million in annual run rate. And this is a question that I've spoken to founders who are publicly listed, SaaS companies publicly listed, they're still sort of working on this as a problem statement, that how do I make sure that I'm able to effectively communicate the value we can create for our customers. And so their positioning and stuff like that. And it's sort of a living, breathing document, the positioning statement
Mm.
that you have, because what happens at 10 million run rate or 50 million run rate is that your ICP, your ideal clients would change, right? So you
Mm.
go from having one definition to multiple definitions. And so of course you're trying to answer it at a different scale, but it's still the same question, because now you're not just catering to content marketers, but you're also starting to cater to leadership teams who are trying to organize their meeting as
Mm.
context minds at 5 million in annual. So these are like sort of questions that cuts across. And thank you for making it difficult for our next guest. It's a great question for me to ask. But either way, thank you, Marek, for joining us on this conversation. Thank you, everyone who was listening or watching this, wherever you are doing that, whether it is YouTube or Spotify or Amazon Music, you'll be able to find the link to Context Minds in the description. If you would like to visually, put your thoughts onto a screen, I would strongly recommend giving Context Minds a try. And if you're a content marketer, for sure, it brings the capabilities of 3 or 4 different platforms that you use in your content planning stage into just one product. And now, as we also found out, the newest plan, it starts at around $8 a month. So you should definitely give that out a try as well. Thank you for joining in, and we will see you again at Building Momentum. Until next time. Bye.